6.7 is some application problems, and there aren't very many of these problems for us to look at. There are two. Somebody's ringing. I do that. There are only two math lab questions in 6.7. Hooray, after you've been having on an average of 17 questions for some of the lessons. There are only two. I'm going to add a third question that I'll make up here in class. Okay, the first one. All right. It says, and I can't project it here in class a whole lot bigger than this. It says the perimeter of a quadrilateral, and that is a four-sided figure. The perimeter of a quadrilateral is 34 centimeters. Okay, now what does perimeter mean? Okay, distance around. Find the length of each side. And then they have a drawing for us. If the perimeter is 34 centimeters, then that means the sum of the lengths of the sides will be 34. So I'm going to scroll down here. I'll have to. And it doesn't matter what order you list these, but I'm going to list the sides. I have x plus 3 plus x plus 9 plus x squared minus 2x plus 2x minus 2 is equal to the perimeter, which is 34. It does not matter at all what order you listed those expressions that represent the sides. What's important is that you recognize perimeter means the sum of all the sides equals that particular number. Now, is this equation a quadratic? Is it a quadratic equation? The answer is yes, because, and you can see I highlighted the 2. When the exponent is a 2, then you know it's quadratic. Quadratic equations, what do you like to have them set equal to? 0, and it is not. I'm going to take 2 steps to simplify this. The first thing I'm going to do is simplify the left-hand side. And I am sorry, I don't know where my big, you know how usually when I point to something, a little circle shows up? Oh, it's not there, and I don't know where it is. And so I have this little minuscule little dot. So can y'all see the little dot? Yeah, okay. All right, on the left-hand side, I'm going to list the terms. I have an x squared term. I'm putting it first. That's the only squared term. Then I have an x, another x, that makes 2x, minus 2x, I have 0x, plus another 2x, I'm back up to 2x. So by combining all the x terms, I get plus 2x. Constants, I have a 9 and a minus 2. So for the constants, I have, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I also had a 3 that I overlooked. All right, so I have 3 plus 9 is 12, minus 2, 10, and that's equal to 34. So I tried to, in a nice colorful fashion, combine like terms on the left-hand side. Now I need to get a 0 on the right-hand side, so I'm going to subtract 34 from both sides, and I end up with x squared plus 2x minus 24 is equal to 0. Does anybody have a question so far? I started out with the definition of perimeter to add all the sides, then combined like terms. Yes, ma'am? I did, but I had a plus 10. Okay? So I combined like terms, and I moved the constant from the right-hand side to the left. Subtracting 34 from the 10 gave me negative 24. All right. This is a quadratic ready for me to solve now. Can I factor that? All right. The last sign is negative. What does that tell you about the two signs in the binomials? One of each. Good. So I'm going to have an x and an x to give me the x squared. I need factors of 24 that, because the signs are different, have a difference of 2. What times what gives you 24 with a difference of 2? It's 6 and 4. Now, it might have been necessary for you to say, well, 1 times 24, no, that doesn't work. 2 times 12, that doesn't work. 3 times 8, no. 4 times 6, yes. So it's fine for you to list out all the possibilities. Because the middle term is a positive 2, I'm going to put the big factor there. All right, I'm almost finished with just solving the equation. The zero factor property says that either x plus 6 is equal to 0 or x minus 4 is equal to 0. So x is equal to negative 6 or x is equal to positive 4. But I'm not through with the problem because I have not answered the questions yet. So let me go back up. And it says, find the length of each side, and in MATLAB, you will see that it lists the sides in no particular order and wants to know the values. All right. Now, if I take a moment to copy those down, I have x plus 3, x plus, can't remember, 9, x squared, thank you, minus 2x, and the last one is 2x minus 2. Okay, those are my expressions, and I have 2 different x's as my, not answers, but solutions to the equation. If I start to plug in negative 6, and I will get negative 6 plus 3, which is negative 3. Now, I'm going to say, whoa, because what does x plus 3 represent? Isn't it a side of this figure? Can a side of a geometric figure have a negative length? No. So I'm going to back off and say negative 6 is not a valid answer to this problem because it gives me a negative length. So, although algebraically it is an answer to the equation, it cannot be an answer in this real life setting. So I throw that away. Not because it's negative, but because when I plugged it in, I got a negative length. If these had all been things like x plus 9, x plus 14, x plus 32, and if I got all positives, then I would have kept the negative 6 as an x, and I would have kept those numbers. But it gave me a negative value. All right, so I'm going to now use this one, and I'm going to have 4 plus 3, which is the first length is 7. I'm going to have 4 plus 9. The next length is 13. I'm going to have 4 squared minus 2 times 4, which is 16 minus 8, or 8. And finally, 2 times 4 minus 2, which is 8 minus 2, or 6. Are those all legitimate values that could be lengths of sides of a figure? And if I add them all up, I will get the 34 that it told me the perimeter would be. So in my MATLAB, your answers will be these numbers. Yes. Okay, now let me go back for just a minute. When I was looking at the negative 6, I stopped after the first one because I immediately got a negative answer. If I had not, I would have done as many of them as I could until I got a negative answer, and then I would have said, oh, never mind. If negative 6 doesn't give me a positive answer in all of them, I can't use it. Okay, and so it just happens that I got a negative answer right off the bat, and I threw it away. Yes, there are. Okay, the question was, could you possibly use both of them? The answer would be yes. You would get two sets of answers that both could give you that perimeter of 34. So yes, you could, but we didn't. Is everybody okay with this application problem? Concept of perimeter is what you needed. Okay? The second question in my math lab, and I hope you won't be too disappointed that you only have two. Let me shrink it here in class. Whoops, no, I just froze it. Okay, it may be difficult for y'all to read at the back of the room. I'll read it out loud. This is number 2 in math lab, and it says, an object is dropped from 48 feet below the tip of the pinnacle atop a 532-foot tall building. The height of the object after t seconds is given by the equation h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 484. Find out how many seconds pass before the object reaches the ground. Okay, let's talk about what's going on and what you need to know and how they maybe gave you some information you didn't need to know. All right, we're going to have, at least in the description that I see, it talks about the pinnacle atop a building. I think we've got something like, is it called the Sears Tower in Chicago? That looks kind of like like a pyramid almost. No? Well, I don't know. Never mind. We have a building. It has a pinnacle, which is a point on the top, and the whole building is 532 feet tall. But somebody reaches out with their hand, little deformed hand, I'm sorry, and that hand is 48 feet below the pinnacle. Okay, so they reach out a window 48 feet below that, and they drop something. And it's heading to the ground. You really didn't have to know any of that, because they give you a formula here, which is h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 484. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you, even though you probably don't want it, I'll give you a little bitty physics lesson about projectiles, things getting dropped. Okay, this equation is kind of standard, not these numbers in it, but this form, for objects being dropped within the atmosphere of Earth. H stands for the height. Okay, it starts out at a certain height above the ground, and because of gravity, it gets closer and closer to the ground as time passes. The first term has a negative 16 times t squared. You're going to see that term as the leading term every time something gets dropped, if the question is measured in feet, because negative 16 is related to the acceleration due to gravity. The real acceleration due to gravity is 32 feet per second squared. And there's a little calculus involved, and you end up taking half of it and blah, blah, blah. It's always 16. Okay? Now, do you agree that in some trinomials you would have a middle term that would just have a t with it, something t? This problem would have had one of those if there had been an initial velocity. If this little person's hand had come out the window and thrown it down with some force, then there would have been a term in the middle that would have reflected their initial velocity in chunking it down. But there wasn't, so that term is missing. The last term, the constant, has to do with what height the object is when it starts its fall. If you took 532 and subtracted the 48 feet, then you would get the 484. Okay, so that's where it started. So when you have a projectile dropping toward Earth, you're always going to have h is equal to negative 16t squared plus perhaps some number times t, if there is an initial velocity, plus some number which is related to how tall it was when it dropped. You're never going to have to fill in those blanks. It's always going to be given to you, unless you're in a physics class. Okay? I had a couple of summer experiences helping teach a physics class, and so I kind of like this stuff. Anyway, you're going to be given the formula. You don't have to worry about it. The question says, find out how many seconds will pass. Do y'all agree that T stands for the seconds? It's time. Until the object reaches the ground. When the object reaches the ground, what is its height? 0. When it hits the ground, the height is 0. And you probably do need to remember that. So that is hits the ground. It could have said how many seconds will pass until it until it passes a window that's 50 feet off the ground, and then the height would be 50. But if you're hitting the ground, your height is 0. That equals negative 16t squared plus 484. Is everybody okay with where the 0 comes from? Is this a quadratic equation? Yes, because there's the squared. And is it in the right form? Is it equal to 0? Yes. All right, so the only way I know how to solve it is hopefully to factor. So I'm going to keep the 0 is equal to. Is there a common factor? Well, we know we don't like the leading term to be negative. So I have to factor out at least a -1. But is there a common factor between these two numbers, between 16 and 484? There is. It's 4. So what I'm going to factor out is -4. So I'm going to divide by -4 and divide by -4. Whoops. -4 goes into -16, +4 times, and there is still a t squared. -4 goes into 484. It's going to go in there minus 121 times. Is that okay? -4, I took out the negative because I am not allowed to leave the leading term as a negative. I took out the 4 because that's the greatest common factor. Now, I'm going to hang on to that -4 and look at this binomial. We know 3 kinds of binomials to factor. Difference of squares, sum or difference of cubes. Is it any of that? It is the difference of squares. The difference of squares factors into the sum and the difference of the square roots. What's the square root of 4t squared? 2t. So I'll put 2t in both of those. And what's the square root of 121? 11. And I'm sorry, letter T and the plus sign could get confused. I try to make the T's always have little curls on them. Okay, it's time to use the zero factor property. Whoa. -4 equals 0. Does that statement make any sense? No. That cannot be the factor that's causing this to equal 0. Can 2t plus 11 equal 0? Yes. Or 2t minus 11 could equal 0. So I need to solve the first one. I'll subtract 11. I have 2t is equal to -11. Divide by 2. And t is equal to -11 over 2. That's time. If we went back up to the original problem, over here, close to where you're typing in the answer, it would tell you to write your answer as an integer or a decimal. It did not give you the option to leave it as a fraction. So this would be -5.5. And I'll come back and talk more about that answer in just a minute. The only reason I changed it to a decimal because what was in parentheses in my math lab. On a test, I wouldn't care if you left it as a decimal or a fraction or a mixed number. All right, the second factor, I will add 11 to both sides, and I get 2t is equal to positive 11, divide by 2. T is equal to 11 over 2, so as a decimal, that's 5.5. What does T represent? Time. Do we measure time in negative numbers? No. This is another case where a negative answer is inappropriate. This is the only answer to the question. If somebody said, how long is it going to take for that object to hit the ground, you would not say negative so many seconds. Now, when is a negative answer okay? What if you're doing a problem that's just about numbers? One number is 5 more than 6 times another, blah, 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 blah. It's about numbers. Numbers can be negative. Lengths of sides can't be negative, and we're not going to let time be negative. Now, maybe Einstein and his theory of relativity and time travel and all that stuff, maybe it allows for negative time, but we're not going to. Okay? So once again, we threw away a negative, and we kept only that answer. Is that okay? All right. That's all MATLAB is going to have for you, but I would like to make up a problem. And when I make up a problem and I haven't included it, there's usually a reason for that. So you might want to perk up and think about this. All right, this is extra. The sum of a number and its square is 20. Find the number. Okay, how many unknown quantities am I asking you to find in the command of the question, of the problem? Just one. There are 2 unknowns. There's a number and its square, but I'm only asking you to tell me the number. So I will take a minute and say X is the number. I think it's important to identify your unknowns like that. All right. Now, the equation. It says the sum of a number and its square. What does sum mean? Plus. So the sum of a number and its square. How am I going to write its square? X to the second. The sum of a number and its square is, that's my equal sign, 20. Did I just write a quadratic equation? There's the square. Is it in the right form? No. All right, first thing I'd like to do is flip these two as far as position. I'd like the leading term to be the x squared and the second term to be the x. And I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides so that I have minus 20 is equal to 0. That's a quadratic equation in the correct form now. There's no common factor. Let's see if we can factor it by trial and error since it's a trinomial. Tell me about the signs. One of each, 1 plus, 1 minus, x and x. I need factors of 20, which have a difference of 1. So I could use 1 and 20, but that wouldn't work. 2 and 10, but that wouldn't work. 4 and 5, yes. 4 and 5 have a difference of 1. I want it to be positive 1, so I'll put the 5 with the positive and the 4 with the negative. Is that okay so far? The zero factor property says that x plus 5 could equal 0, or x minus 4 could equal 0. x is equal to -5 or x is equal to +4. What does x represent? The number. Is it okay for a number to be negative? Yes. So that's a perfectly acceptable number, and that's a perfectly acceptable number. There happen to be two different numbers that would do this. Now, if you wanted to check it, if you took -5 plus its square, what is -5 squared? 25. All right, that's supposed to equal 20. Is -5 plus 25 equal to 20? Yes. So that checked. Is 4 plus 4 squared equal to 20? Well, that would be 4 plus 16, and that's true also. Two different numbers both satisfied the condition. So it was fine to have a negative answer that time. You won't have that one in Math Lab, but it's a nice problem to think about. Hint, hint, hint. Okay, so Math Lab for section 6.7 should be very quick. You will have a perimeter question and you'll have an object dropping question. Only two. So we're going to call 6.7 done.